After the Supreme Court made its ruling in the Hobby Lobby case, many women were understandably upset at that ruling. Well, Laura Ingraham went on Fox and Friends to basically tell those women to fuck off and not be so upset about it. In fact, we have her clip, so let's take a quick look at that.
I think a lot of these women have really bad cases of the vapors over this case, and they're doing so only for political reasons. I think most people see this and they say, wait a second, okay, so these women who decide on their own to work for these closely held public companies like Hobby Lobby and a few other plaintiffs in this case, that they are now not considered real people because they're not able to get abortifacient drugs from Hobby Lobby's insurance. When they can go to Planned Parenthood, by the way, we as taxpayers give Planned Parenthood $500 million a year, okay? They can go to Planned Parenthood. They can go anywhere else. They can get their own policy. The government can also pay for it, which is probably what's going to happen. The idea that there is no way for these women to get the very small class of abortifacient drugs and other contraceptives that Hobby Lobby, on sincere religious grounds, believe violates their religious conscience is ridiculous. And she knows it, and the left knows it, and Hillary knows it. This is a cynical game they're playing, and I think it's time for common sense thinking Americans to call them out on it. Their agenda has failed women economically. Women are not better off than they were 6 years ago in the United States of America. They know it, and they're trying to use this to try to gin up their old Sandra Fluke deal, and I think most people see through it.
I'm also amused by the random throwing in of Sandra Fluke.
Yeah. They love any opportunity to like belittle her and make her seem as though she's like some sort of whore who goes around sleeping with anyone and just needs someone to pay for her. By the way, Sandra Fluke's doing fine. She can pay for her own, her own contraception. We're talking about people who are poor, who desperately need it so they don't get pregnant and have unwanted babies.
No, but she's become like one of those talking points, like Benghazi, IRS. You just throw it into the middle of the conversation. Oh, they're going to do that Sandra Fluke thing. What does that mean? What is the Sandra Fluke thing? Get contraception like 99% of women? What does that mean, right? It's just a buzzword that Fox News audience then has been trained like Pavlov's dogs to be like, liberals, Sandra Fluke, Benghazi.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I love this. She's saying, oh, they got the vapors. Meanwhile, she sounds like the most bitter person in the world.
Yes, thank you. Yes, she's the one who sounds like she has the vapors. And by the way, for those of you who have no idea what that is, it's a Victorian-era phrase. So let me tell you what it is. It's a term referring to illnesses known as vapors. It's an archaic form for certain mental physical states such as hysteria, mania, clinical depression, bipolar disorder, fainting, withdrawal symptom, mood swings, or PMS, ascribed primarily to women. This is related to the similar term female hysteria.
Okay, so first of all, for one woman to use that against other women is not cool. It's like an old stereotype, like a woman, with the pre-PMS and the whole thing, and you know how hysterical they are. They get the vapors, right? Mm-hmm. So I love the pro-women Republican Party, pro-women Laura Ingraham. That's great. Okay, but it's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? But vapors is a fascinating concept from old school. Mm-hmm. Now, the internet will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that one of the ways that Freud cured the vapors, and I'm not sure that's exactly Freud, that's why, and it's not like I have an article in front of me, but I remember from those old days, is that he would masturbate the women.
Right, he would use toys or whatever to help them out.
Yeah, and so they're like, oh, they're pissed, or this, or that, and then he's like, goes to work, and they're like, 1 second, vapor's gone. And they're like, let's go back to Freud. Freud's awesome. He's a genius, right? Mm-hmm. So I might have gotten into some of the details wrong, but that did happen, right?
Yeah.
And so
I remember reading about that too. I don't think it was Freud, but I do remember reading about, women who had those issues, and then they'd go to doctors, and then they would basically diddle them a little bit.
Yeah, the issue was that they were pent up and incredibly horny. And once you gave them a good orgasm, they're like, issue's gone.
Right.
Okay. So, ironically, Laura Ingraham wants to bring us back to that time where no one has an orgasm, and everybody's going around the world like she is with clenched teeth, like, these women with their vapors and the Hillary Clinton thing and Sandra Fluke thing. Okay.
I love it. By the way, my favorite part about that clip was how often she name-dropped Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. Like, do you know how much money we give to Planned Parenthood every year? Did you know that women can go there and they can get whatever contraception they want? It's affordable. Yeah. who do you think is trying to cut funding for Planned Parenthood? It's your party. You're the same person who's advocating for cutting funding to these organizations so women don't have access to birth control, to abortion, by the way, to simple things like breast screenings and things like that. So name-dropping Planned Parenthood in that case is so insincere and so pathetic. And by the way, another thing that she said was, Hobby Lobby has sincere religious grounds. Well, there's a huge hypocrisy there, right? And the huge hypocrisy is a huge chunk of their items come from China. So a bunch of conservatives, a bunch of Christians have actually called them out on this. And I love that because oftentimes when we talk about conservatives and very religious people, we say, hey, why is it that we don't have the normal Christians coming out and denouncing them for pushing these ridiculous regulations and policies? Well, here's one person. You cannot call your business Christian when you're arguing before the Supreme Court and then set aside Christian values when you're placing a bulk order for cheap wind chimes. And Jonathan Merritt in that case is making the argument that, hey, you know what? Christian values also push the notion that we need to help the poor. And we're not helping the poor when we're supporting cheap labor abroad.
I thought they were going to go another direction. China has the one-child policy. I mean, you want to talk about abortion on a mass scale? That's China, right? So if you're doing business with China, that's 1,000 times worse than anyone getting an IUD here in the U.S. You know, out of your workforce, however many people that applies to. And we think that they should have access to that. But that's not even 1% of 1% of the issue of, even if you believe that that was technically abortion, not even 1% of 1% of the abortion issue that China has.
So I have numbers for you.
Go.
Okay, so let me give you those numbers. So since China started using the one-child policy or instituted the one-child policy, there have been a total of 330 million abortions over 40 years. But Hobby Lobby's cool with that because, hey, it's cheap labor, which means cheap merchandise that they can, of course, sell for more money. That's how they profit. When it comes to profit, who gives a shit about your morals? And the reality is, it's not really about their morals or what they believe in their religion. This has to do with the fact that they hate Obama, they hate the Affordable Care Act, so they're using this one small part of the Affordable Care Act to attack Obama, to attack liberals. That's what this is really about. It's not about birth control. It's their stupid agenda, and it's ridiculous that we're wasting so much time on it.
If you have deeply held religious beliefs, Hobby Lobby, I'm sorry, but that 330 million abortions is on your head. You're funding it by continuing to do business with China on a daily basis. Well, you say, oh, well, that's just a Chinese company. Hey, China's communist, man. The government owns everything. So, sorry, you're totally wrong with it. You're working with communists who do hundreds of millions of abortions? Hobby Lobby, you disgust me.